Hey guys, welcome to Bogey Sports NFL edition. We're glad to have you today with my co-host Parker, Dimitri, and Justin. We'll be talking about recent NFL news, and we'll sprinkle in a little bit about wide receiver fantasy football as well as rankings. And this is also our first time debuting our podcast, so if you can't attend the stream, which is perfectly fine, go check us out on iTunes or Spotify for our podcast. So, yes. Yeah, enjoy.
There you go.
Alrighty. So
first up, we got Cam Newton to the Patriots. Recent trade.
So last 2 weeks after the preseason, and then he's done. Garrett Stidham.
No. Come on. We all know Bill Belichick wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't healthy. This is...
Okay, hold on. We know Cam Newton's old, and he's going to be used as a mentor. He's going to be used as a mentor for Jarrett Stidham because he's more like Jarrett Stidham than Tom Brady was. More of the same skill sets. Therefore, he's going to breed him into the next best quarterback.
No, I don't think so, because you forget that basically Cam's whole contract is based on his performance. If he plays like shit, he gets like no money. So even if he does mentor Stidham, who frankly, I mean, I'm a diehard Patriots fan, but Stidham is crap. Even if he does mentor him, there's no... Jarrett Stidham's not the future of the Patriots. I mean, you're right. Cam Newton is old. I don't think he's going to be with the Patriots for a decade or even 5 years. But I do think if he stays healthy and if he manages to, not break his knee again or whatever the hell is going on with him, I think we got a chance. I think the Patriots, they're definitely not going to win any Super Bowls, but I think they're playoff contenders with him.
You realize that whole contract, him playing, if they don't play him, they don't have to spend as much money on him. So they can just use him as a mentor this whole year, and then they don't have to spend the money. Football is important, they want to win, but it's still a business. They're going to try to save as much money as possible. That's how they're going to do it, and if they can breed the next Patrick Mahomes out of Jarrett Stidham, then they're going to do that.
Yeah, but Cam Newton is not going to just let himself become a mentor. He has a little more pride than that. I mean, he's...
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely going to compete for the starting job.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, if you see, I think his guaranteed money was $550K, or somewhere around that. And, compared to some other backup QBs, Cam Newton is, making nothing, which is, the Patriots got an absolute steal on him. But, actually, I wanted to hear Dimitri, who's a Patriots fan, his opinion on, there's before the trade, there's a general stigma that, the Patriots were going to tank for Trevor Lawrence. But, now that you've signed Cam Newton, how do you see that changing, if anything at all?
Well, here's the thing. As much as I think we should tank, Belichick won't do it. Belichick has a little bit more pride, not only as a coach, but as one of the best coaches in NFL history to purposely tank his team. Mm-hmm. Now, admittedly, looking at the Patriots' schedule, it makes me cry a little bit, because even with Brady last year, even with Brady at his prime, I'd still be worried about that schedule. But now that I feel like, nothing is assured, because as much as I'd like to say Cam Newton is the future of the Patriots, and there's no... that's just where we're going to go. I don't think he is, but I would I'm hoping that he stays healthy, and I'm hoping that he manages to come back a little bit to how he used to be.
Yeah, Parker, what are your thoughts on this?
Cam Newton is one of the most injury-prone quarterbacks of all time, so the odds of him staying healthy are 0. So I see him being out in 2 weeks and being injured.
Oof, bald prediction.
He's just going to be used as a mentor.
Yeah. Another thing,
when he breaks his back.
How will Cam Newton fit into this offense? I mean, the Patriots offense has been, led by Tom Brady for the past decade, and Cam Newton is quite a versatile guy, while Tom Brady, doesn't like to run a lot, stays in the pocket, very intelligent thrower, can read defenses pretty well. I don't know if Cam Newton is able to adapt to this offense so quickly, especially given that training, preseason has been pushed back and everything. It's I don't know if Cam Newton has enough time to, fully integrate himself into this offense. But I'd have to agree with Dimitri. They're definitely playoff contenders just because their division is one of the easiest divisions in the league. No shots being taken, but just saying.
Well, I mean, first of all, I've been looking into it a little bit. He's been doing some workouts. You could see him. There was a video he posted on him just throwing the ball around with N'Keal Harry a little bit, which is kind of, good to see that he's not just sitting on his ass doing nothing. But I also think that if we put Cam Newton into the Patriots 4 years ago, I think that it would be a massive restructuring and be an issue. But here, the Patriots today are no longer Tom Brady's Patriots. I mean, we have Edelman, but even Mohamed Sanu never really adjusted to Tom Brady's and Belichick's style. I think that it'll be pretty easy for them to convert out of the old way of doing it into something a little more versatile.
Well, is it really Cam Newton adjusting to the Patriots offense, or the Patriots adjusting to Cam Newton?
Well, that's exactly it. I think it'll be the Patriots adjusting to Cam Newton, not Cam Newton adjusting to the Patriots. Because he's got enough on his plate already. Coming back from an awful season last year where he was injured the entire time. I think our focus should just be to make Cam Newton work as well as possible, and not try to do anything too weird with him.
For those listening on the podcast, we've also included his 2019 stats when he was last with the Carolina Panthers. He played 2 games, losing both of those, with a completion percentage of 56.2, 572 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of 71, and a total of -2 rushing yards. Anyone want to jump in?
Because Kyle Allen did so much better than Cam Newton, right? The starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, Kyle Allen did so much better.
And I mean, as terrible as that performance is, you gotta understand that the Carolina Panthers has been defined by their running game. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is arguably the best runner in the league. He's what wins them games, not their passing. So even though, those stats are bad, no touchdowns, 1 interception, -2 rushing yards, I think that you've got to understand that they were focusing much more on their run game than their pass game anyway.
You say that, but Christian McCaffrey also went over 1,000 yards receiving. So it's really just the Christian McCaffrey offense.
Yeah,
nothing more to that. There's nothing more to that. They lost Fluke Kuechly, so their defense has gone down by 25, 100 points. Then what do they have offensively? They have Jay Moore. They have McCaffrey, who's literally their offense. You have Teddy Bridgewater, right? I believe it's Teddy Bridgewater on that team now.
Yeah,
he can actually throw the ball or get enough time from their offensive line, which I honestly doubt is going to happen. We're going to see a bunch of checkdowns. We're going to see screens. We're going to see Christian McCaffrey with big plays, because that's what the Carolina Panthers are now. Until they can actually develop a team. And to be honest, going back to Cam Newton and the Patriots, I feel like in a couple of years that's going to be the Patriots, because look at the Patriots team. They're all old. No offense. They're all older players. So them tanking isn't going to do anything. If they tank, that's just one less year they have with these guys while they're in their quote-unquote prime, because they're still older than everybody else in the NFL.
That's
fair, but you've also got to consider, one of the major things, the reason why the Panthers have basically gone over a complete change of character since 2015 is that they lost their coach. Ron Rivera was fired, and they were, and because of that, then their new coach was trying to alter around and make a team around that. But I think that it's just finally, it's not so much that they're changing their style, it's that they're becoming more adjusted to a new coach.
But still, you can blame the coach, but their drafting hasn't been the best. Their free agency hasn't been the best, because they don't have keep parts on their offensive line. They don't have those their wide receiver core looks pretty good. You got DJ Moore, you've got Curtis Samuel. They now have Robbie Anderson, but Teddy Bridgewater isn't the best quarterback in the world. He's good. Does he have enough time in the pocket with their offensive line? Probably not. So,
That's for sure.
So how is he going to be able? He's going to have to try to get the ball, either just chuck the ball up and hope DJ Moore can catch it, or throw a check down to Christian McCaffrey. Like, you don't have too many options here.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think that the Panthers are playoff contenders. I mean, I think that if they manage to make everything work just right, they could be. But I don't think they've got it. We were going to talk about this a little later, I think. But I think they're a great option for Jadeveon Clowney to join. I mean, just to replace Kuechly, I guess. But I think they definitely need some more off-season rebuilding than they did if they want to come back into prominence.
I think that was I was gonna say if you guys are ready to transition because Dimitri just tied it in so quick, so nicely.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
let's
we'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, there we go.
So we have 3 players.
The 3 free agents.
Well,
Or
not all of them
soon-to-be
are free
free
agents.
And
but
Antonio Brown.
three
Antonio
players
Brown
that
doesn't
are
count. He's just there.
have some interest in playing for a team or another team. So we'll start off with Jamal Adams, star safety from LSU, now currently at New York Jets. And it's rumored some of the top contending teams for him are the Cowboys, Jets, Ravens, and the Eagles. So someone wants to
Not
hop
going
on.
to the Cowboys. There is no chance he's going to the Cowboys. Someone like Jerry Jones isn't going to be able to control him, and then he's going to get pissed off, and it's going to be this whole big thing because he's got a big personality, and Jerry Jones isn't going to like it. So he's not going to the Cowboys. On top of that, how are they going to pay him? They have Dak Prescott, which wants Patrick Mahomes money. Like, you're not getting Patrick Mahomes money. All you do is hand the ball off to Zeke. I can go find a kid in Kuechly
And sometimes
hand the ball off to Zeke.
Well, I think here's the big thing. I think the Jets really need to shut up and give him more money. The Jets
I
have
agree.
very little going for them right now. I mean, to be fully honest, I don't like the Jets. I'm a Patriots fan. I don't like the Jets. I don't like the Giants. I don't like I don't like any New York team really. But if they want to have a chance, I mean, what they've got going for them, they've got Darnold who missed games with mono. They've got Le'Veon Bell who was secondary on the Steelers. They don't have anyone that can define their team.
They lost Robbie Anderson, like their star. Like I wouldn't even say star wide receiver, but number 1 wide receiver. I think their number 1 wide receiver now is Jamison Crowder. But moving on to the defensive side, like besides Jamal Adams, I don't even know if I could name another defensive player on that team. I mean, I feel like that team is kind of just slowly becoming a dying organization. No offense to Mr. C, who is my English teacher and a Jets fan, but I think they gotta pay him the money.
I thought they made some decent draft picks, right? I thought they picked up a cornerback, but maybe not.
They got an offensive. They got Mekhi Becton to protect Sam Darnold. I don't know how good he's going to be in protecting Sam Darnold from mono, but against defensive ends, he'll probably do a pretty good job. He was arguably one of the best offensive tackles in college, but if Sam Darnold can't stay healthy,
they need. Speaking of teams that need to be completely revamped, the Jets definitely one of the top contenders. They've got. I mean, I'd like to say that they're coasting on past glory, but they've never actually been that good. So they're just coasting off nothing.
Adam Gase isn't helping. Let's be completely honest.
No.
Give Adam Gase this contract. What's he doing? He gets Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell accepted less money when he went to the Jets than staying with the Steelers. And no, Le'Veon Bell was not second on the Steelers. He just wanted too much money, and the Steelers weren't ready to pay him that much money because they have people like Juju. They had Antonio Brown, who they thought they were gonna give more money to, but then he turned out to be a clown. So
Yeah, speaking of Antonio Brown, let's transition into him. Right now,
he's never gonna play another
currently
snap
jobless.
again.
Some teams that are interested in him are the Ravens and Seahawks, and I think there are some rumors about the Buccaneers or Browns, but I don't really see that happening. Personally, I see him, if there's going to be a team that signs him, I would have to bet the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens, their wide receiver, Marquise Brown and Mark Andrew pretty much makes up the whole thing. I know it's more of a run-heavy offense, but I think
And tight
in
ends.
order
Nick can use a receiver. They can definitely use a receiver.
Just
order
add their
for
tight ends in
the
there.
Ravens to take their team to the next level, they've been choking in the playoffs for the past 2 years, haven't won a playoff game. In order to make it to the Super Bowl, I think they need a star wide receiver to help out Lamar Jackson a bit.
So when are the Ravens gonna pay Antonio Brown? Before or after Lamar Jackson gets a bigger contract than Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
They have a lot to deal with cap space before they can pick up Antonio Brown.
Well, I'd say they could sign him to a one-year deal this year because Lamar Jackson's not getting paid this year, and depending on if he gets injured or not, because his play style is very, radical and risky, that can determine his play style. Determine his contract.
I don't see Antonio Brown even fitting in the offense. Like he doesn't play with the same style as the entire other Ravens offense. Like he played with Ben Roethlisberger, who doesn't.
Yeah.
He plays in the pocket and just throws deep.
Antonio Brown is a great deep ball. If you throw a Hail Mary, he will catch it. But the problem being is that that's not what Lamar Jackson. There's a reason they called him a receiver, a running back instead of a quarterback. It's not that he's bad at throwing. He doesn't have the arm of Big Ben or someone like that.
Now that
Actually, I think he has a really good arm. It's just he doesn't use it as much because he can run a lot better than his arm is. He just runs around and throws it to the tight end for a first down every single down.
Hey, it got him to the first seed in the playoffs, so it's not talk shit about that.
It's like you playing Madden, Dimitri.
Shut up.
I mean, it's not like I feel like Antonio Brown doesn't really have a choice. It's not like he's picking the teams that that he wants to go to. I mean, the teams are choosing him. If he gets a chance by any team, by all means, he's going to take that chance. So, I mean, and I think at this point, it's the Ravens that are most likely to do so.
Oh, hold on a minute.
I just don't think he fits in the Ravens' offense.
How good is Antonio Brown going to be after taking a year off? He's not getting any younger. Something's clearly happened to him.
Well, listen,
Look at Le'Veon Bell. He took a year off, and he definitely wasn't as good as he used to be.
let's not tiptoe around it. He sucks. He sucked. But listen, I don't like Antonio Brown because he screwed the Patriots over. I don't like him. But
Hold on.
and not only did he screw over the Patriots, but he's basically he's like a divorced wife going from. It's a bad situation, but I don't think we can question his talent. Even though it's been a year, even though he's getting slightly older, the man is gifted. Okay.
Yes, but how many?
That's why it's the problem. If he was only kind of decent, not that many people would be rushing to snap him up. But he's like, if he's playing well and not being a weirdo about it, he's a top 5 receiver easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do think the Ravens need a receiver. I think that would help them definitely. I think they'd bring him to a Super Bowl. But I think Antonio Brown would be too much of a risk for them. Right now, they've got a relatively winning formula, and if they add someone like Antonio Brown, who's famous for separating teams, I think that's not a risk they want to take.
That's good.
I don't think Antonio Brown's going to fit anywhere because arguably the best coach in football history, arguably, Bill Belichick couldn't hold him.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, theoretically speaking, you're right, but it's kind of different from the way he left the Steelers, right? He didn't necessarily. He's not like he was separating the team on the Patriots, is that he may or may not have raped the girl, and the Patriots didn't want that on their record. I don't think Belichick should be in charge of keeping that in order. I don't think we can really put that on him.
Alrighty. Let's move on to the last person, Jadeveon Clowney, former #1 overall pick. He spent a year in Seattle
The old man.
before he was in the Texans, and it's been a while since I think he's a free agent now, and I think before his asking price was around like 17-18 million for a multi-year deal, but now it seems like he has dropped that significantly. So some contenders for him are the Titans, the Seahawks, and the Browns. Where do you see him ending up at?
Maybe he goes to neither and he goes back to the Texans. About the Texans. Oh, seriously, the Texans got rid of DeAndre Hopkins for some stupid reason.
I think he was drunk.
And
Bill O'Brien.
there goes 90% of your cap. So back to Jadeveon Clowney. Now you have an amazing defender. So what else could you really need? They should be in the playoffs. Only other thing you could need is like a David Johnson in his prime, but I don't know how good you were at getting that there.
Yeah, I don't think we should put any hope in that.
I don't know if that would happen because just the Texans organization has taken quite a downfall past year/year and a half.
Texans organization or Bill O'Brien? Hold on.
Well, the Bill O'Brien is kind of controlling the organization, so I don't really see that happening. It would be amazing to see that happen, but I just personally do not see that happening.
See, I'm waiting for Bill O'Brien to trade J.J. Watt to the Steelers, and then with Deshaun Watson and their first-round pick
For Ben Roethlisberger.
for Mason Rudolph
And a bag of chips.
Sure, we'll throw in the bag of chips, but I was gonna say
but only if he's in his duck hunting uniform.
Only if he's drunk the night before.
Alright, guys, here's my problem with Jadeveon Clowney. And this is true for most defensive ends, unless we're talking about, J.J. Watt, who somehow is still not dead. He's no longer in his prime. DN's prime are much shorter than most other positions, especially on defense. I don't think he's good enough to be necessarily picked up by maybe the Browns, because at this point they should take anything ship that is their defense. But I mean, the Titans, they don't need it. Their defense works well enough, and the Seahawks, their defense is pretty good. I don't think they need to waste the cap space.
Hold on. Can we go off track for 1 second and just talk about the Browns? They have spent the most amount of money and the most amount of draft picks on the most amazing talent, and they're still arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have Odell, they have Jarvis Landry,
Nick Chubb.
They just got Austin Hooper, they have Nick Chubb, they have Kareem Hunt, who I don't care who you're talking to, he's still one of the best running backs in the NFL. And
He's
the best kicker.
Oh my god.
Here's the problem with the Browns. All right. Yes, they've got all this talent, but they've sucked for so long they don't know how to not suck anymore. Alrighty.
Oh man, shots fired.
I mean, listen. There was a news article that came out recently that a Cleveland Brown man wrote in his will when he died that he wanted his pallbearers to be members of the Cleveland Browns so they can let him down one last time. All right. This is. Even their own town, who's arguably one of the most football intensive, besides the Texan places, one of the most football intensive towns in America. Even they're starting to get sick of them. Unless the Browns need to completely, they also need a revamping. They just need better new coaching. They need new ownership. They need, I don't know what they need. They need a magic spell or something.
Yeah, also, I don't even know if they have enough cash for that, They have all these star players, Jadeveon Clowney would just run them straight into debt.
Yeah.
That's why I personally see him signing with the Titans, because, the Titans, they already have a pretty good offense carried by Derrick Henry, and their defense isn't bad, but I think they're losing a couple guys like Logan Ryan this offseason, so, I mean, They had a good run in the playoffs last year, and I think adding Jadeveon Clowney will only help their team.
Well, here's another
Put
thing.
all three of those people on the screen on the Browns, and they would still suck. They would still
You
suck.
could put all three of them on the team at the same time, and they'd still suck.
Like you can get Joe Thomas, you can get all their greats back, and then take every great. You can bring Tom Brady in, you can bring whoever. They will still be the worst team in the NFL.
Well, before we talk more about how much the Browns suck, I just want to finish up Jadeveon Clowney. A new piece of information that I was looking into a little earlier: the Eagles apparently are interested in signing him, which I think would be a great fit because the Eagles, just with their basically offense alone, did quite well last year, and I think Jadeveon Clowney could definitely help boost their defense.
Fletcher Cox with Jadeveon Clowney, that would be a deadly duo.
Say they did quite well, but look at the division they're in.
Yeah,
they even over 500? I don't remember. Were they over 500 by what? One game, maybe?
Yeah.
Who's gonna stop them? The Cowboys?
Yeah.
Cowboys can't score. You're gonna be paying your quarterback millions of dollars to hand the ball off.
Though the Cowboys lost Sean Garrett, which maybe they have a chance this year.
Jason Garrett?
What? That's what. Did I not just say Jason
You
Garrett?
said Sean.
Who is Sean Garrett? Well,
Alright, I think we've spent enough time on this topic. Let's move over to the next slide.
I just want to say one more thing about Jamal Adams. Okay. So I just looked up the Jets' defensive players to see if I could name another. What came up first was Jamal Adams. What came up second was Robbie Anderson. That is how bad their defense is.
yeah.
Okay, now we move on.
All right, let's move on.
Alright, so we asked each co-host to rank their top 5 current wide receivers in the league. I'll start off first.
Wait, before you start, let's be clear. We're talking in a PPR fantasy league, right?
Well, this is not fantasy. This is just like talent-wise, who would you want to have on your team?
All right.
So
I thought we were talking fantasy. I think we should add in the talent and then add in some of the fantasy because most of us were probably thinking fantasy. And Steven, I hope you were partially thinking fantasy here because Davante Adams, really?
Yeah. We defend that choice.
Couldn't find Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tom.
Well, I wasn't thinking fantasy. I was just thinking like talent-wise, who would you want to have on your team? Like,
let's let him go through the list and then we'll make.
I'll go first. Make fun. I think first of all, I think my list is flawless, but that's just my opinion. I'll start off with the beast, Julio Jones. Very physical wide receiver, can pretty much run any route. He's been in Atlanta forever, had heck of a time there. But the thing that stands out about Julio Jones to me from the other few wide receivers is that he's not one of those guys that will compare or talk trash or do any of that stuff. On the other hand, you had DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas, who earlier they were having disputes about the best wide receiver in the league, and I feel like when you're engaging in these talks, it just kind of downgrades yourself in general. I mean, if you're the best wide receiver in the league, in my opinion, you don't have to do any talking at all. You show, not tell. And that's what I have. That's why I have Julio at number 1, DeAndre at number 2, just because, his hands are probably the best in the game. I think last year he didn't drop a single ball. Not this season, but the season before that.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas, he's also very versatile receiver, good route runner, but I think his route running is a little bit limited. I don't know if I think there's some routes that he's not as good as. I could be wrong on that, but anyways, number 4, I have a tie. Tough for me to choose between Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, he has that, Godspeed. Personally, I think he's the quickest wide receiver in the league, even though John Ross is, official 40 dash.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. And Davante Adams, just one of the best route runners in the league as well. So, go make fun of my list, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to make fun of it really.
Let's start with
Tyreek Hill. Or no matter, there should not be a tie. Tyreek Hill is easily at least 4. Devontae Adams should not be a question. I'll put CMC there any day before I put Devontae Adams. Because what other wide receiver can rush for 1,000 yards and receive for 1,000 yards?
I mean, hey, Devontae Adams did kind of have an off season last year, but he still is. You have to admit, like, he had, I think the year before that, he led the league in touchdowns, and like he's honestly, his connection with Aaron Rodgers is also amazing too. So,
he does have a good deal of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. That's fair, but especially I'm pretty sure they're going to transfer to a much more running-based team, especially now that they got Jordan Love as a backup quarterback. It'll be fun to see.
Since they wasted a pick on Jordan Love and
I do have a question, Steven. Julio Jones is, I think, 31 now. Yes, he's been good. Yes, he's been great. But do you think he can still keep it up, even though he's kind of getting a little long in the tooth?
I mean, if you look at a guy like Julio Jones, I mean, you can call him Mr. Consistent. You know, he doesn't always get a lot of touchdowns because, you know, those are spread out between Austin Hooper and Calvin Ridley, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, he always gets the yardage. You know, if you throw a jump ball, he'll get it. Deep ball, he'll get it. And just judging from the past few years, I don't recall a time where he missed a game because of injury or anything like that. And, you know, based on this, I'd say another 3 years, he's definitely, I wouldn't say he's in his prime, but, you know, just because he's not getting it, he doesn't show a history of injuries, which leaves me to believe that in the future that will continue as well.
All right. That's fair. All right.
Shall we move on?
Let's move on.
I'm still speechless about the whole Devontae Adams, but...
All right.
Let's move on for now. We can...
Okay,
right.
Dimitri.
Okay.
Yeah, so just looking at
calm down. Let's be clear. When I made this list, it was under the impression we're talking fantasy. But even if it's I hold by my choices. Guys, I know most of you don't like Brady. I understand it. Steven, you're a Seahawks fan, and we screwed you over there. And Steelers, and you guys are both Steelers fan, and I mean, we've been taking every record you guys ever made.
Did you just call me a Steelers fan?
Yeah, Parker's a Rams fan.
Yeah, I have a brain, Dimitri.
That's the biggest achievement you'll ever get is being called a Steelers fan.
Be quiet.
So I get you guys don't like Brady, but here's what you got to consider. Both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, without Brady, with Jameis Winston, who, I mean, he's an awful quarterback.
Best defensive player ever. 30.
He got himself more interceptions than 5 other quarterbacks combined. It's ridiculous.
Dude, no matter how much you like Tom Brady or dislike Tom Brady, you cannot change the fact that they have Gronk on their team and they're going to be splitting between the 2 wide receivers.
No. Listen.
Ronald Jones isn't even that bad.
First of all, I love Gronk. We were talking about this a little bit before we started the stream, but I love Gronk like a creepy uncle. But
okay,
he's basically Frankenstein. He spends almost all season half injured, and the reason Brady always threw the Gronk to Gronk because there was no one else. I mean, he had Edelman.
Edelman.
But that's it. It was Edelman or Gronk. Now
they get Josh Gordon.
Both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in their prime, I feel like they're going to not only get a lot more time than they would a lot more passing than they would normally under Winston, but I also think that the passing is just going to be that much better. I mean, they got these ridiculous stats because Winston loved throwing his Hail Marys, but I think under Brady with a little bit more control, a little bit more, organization, focusing on 10, 15-yard receptions instead of 60, 70-yard receptions, I think they're both going to explode. I mean, of course, it's hard to say that for sure because Michael Thomas, Michael Thomas is like if God came down in wide receiver form and decided to run for Drew Brees. They're Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. Their skill is uncontestable, but I still think that Mike Evans especially, I think he's a better receiver than Godwin, but I think that with Brady is going to be almost a Randy Moss-like duo there.
I just don't understand how you put them above Tyreek Hill with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in a PPR. I don't care if it's fantasy, I don't care if you're just talking talent-wise, Tyreek Hill should be on that list somewhere. And I believe Mike Evans is going to do worse because he's going to be going on those deep routes while you have Gronk and Chris Godwin underneath. And where's Brady going to go? He's going to go to the underneath routes. He's going to go to Gronk and Godwin more than he's going to go to Mike Evans.
So I'll take that. I'll take them one at a time. So basically, the way I see it is that, what's his name? Mahomes is a much better version of Winston. They both like throwing their deep balls. They both can move. They both can move if they need to. The difference being is that half the deep balls Winston threw were interceptions. So yes, Tyreek Hill's an awesome receiver and he's fast as crap. I won't contest that, especially after the Super Bowl victory they had. But I also don't think, especially as he's splitting the ball 3 ways, I don't think that one-on-one he's that much better than any of these guys.
Well, isn't it Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Gronk also splitting
Yeah.
it 3 ways?
Except that's more even.
That is, I really, you guys seem to think Gronk is going to be much better than he is. Gronk is there for the ticket sales. That's it.
Well, I mean, you also have Cameron Brate, right? He's not a bad tight end either.
And
So-
there's
O.J.
chemistry
Howard,
between
O.J.
Brady
Howard.
and
O.J. Howard,
Mike
sorry.
and Godwin before he throws the Brate easily.
But they have the
Can we
chemistry.
Go back for a second? Wait, hold on. Can we go back for a second and explain how Dimitri just said Patrick Mahomes is basically a better Jameis Winston?
No, not basically. He is a much better Jameis Winston. Yes, I hold by that.
And you say Patrick Mahomes loves throwing the deep ball. Of course he loves throwing the deep ball when Tyreek Hill is able to hit the corner by 30 yards and then, it's an easy touchdown.
Well, yeah, but
Tyreek Hill's out there.
I'm just saying, when we're talking about general styles of throwing, Mahomes can't be compared to Lamar Jackson, who's run first easily. He can't be compared to Brady, he only throws short 8-yard, 10-yard passes. And when he throws anything more, he gets a pick 6 on the last fucking game as a Patriot. But if we're talking just quarterback archetypes, I definitely think that Jameis Winston and Mahomes, even though they're considerably different levels, can be compared.
All right. We spent a lot of time on Dimitri's list. We should probably move on to the next one, and we can talk more about this.
We've mostly spent time on arguing why Mike Evans is at number 1, possibly.
You guys just wait. Just wait. When I draft Mike Evans first and get
Then lose.
First overall fantasy, he's gonna draft Mike Evans. I guarantee it.
Don't hold me to that. We might consider further, but yeah.
You should consider further.
He'll see Christian McCaffrey, and he'll be like, "Screw that, we're going with
Mike
Mike
Evans right now.
All right. Let's move on.
So, my list. We're gonna start it off with Julio Jones, and before we say anything, last year Julio Jones was still great, and you had Austin Hooper and Calvin Ridley. You had Austin Hooper as that big target for Matt Ryan. So Austin Hooper's gone. He's on the Browns. He's going to go lose the rest of his career there. The Browns are so bad. And now who's Matt Ryan going to throw the ball to? Who's he going to trust the most? It's going to be Julio Jones.
The defense?
That's Jameis Winston, but But when Julio Jones is that big target once again for Matt Ryan, and where is he going to go? He's going to go to Julio Jones. Julio Jones can be double covered, and there's a good chance he's going to come down with the football because it's Julio Jones. Now, I would have put DeAndre Hopkins above Michael Thomas, but I was thinking fantasy-wise, and you're talking about a team where you have DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, and Christian Kirk. There's no way he's getting the same amount of receptions as he did in, oh my god, my brain.
Texans.
Texas. Yeah. There's no way he's going to get the same amount of yards. So that's the only real reason I put Michael Thomas above him, along with Drew Brees doesn't have, I would say Drew Brees doesn't have as much weapons as some other teams. So where's he going to go? He's going to go to trusted Michael Thomas or Taysom Hill because
He's
Hill can play
a quarterback, running back, and a receiver.
And Kamara. I forgot about for a second.
Let's not pretend he's anything compared to Michael Thomas as a receiver.
Oh well, yeah, but he's. I would say Alvin Kamara is a budget Christian McCaffrey. Is there anything against that? Because he's a really good receiver, but he's nowhere as good as Christian McCaffrey. And again, Christian McCaffrey is always getting the ball. So
I guess you're technically right, but all running backs are not as good as, or most running backs are not as good as
CMC.
CMC is a much better runner than he is receiver. Period. I mean, you can't argue that. He's like a
1,000 yards both ways.
I mean, who else do they have to throw it to?
Yeah, it's
Curtis Samuel. How they have Robbie Anderson. The only issue is Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have enough time to throw the ball to one of them, so he has to flip it off to Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's going to have to
We've already discussed the plight of the Panthers.
I know.
Put it on your list.
All right, how about you finish off? Yeah.
So Tyreek Hill is a god. He will always be a god, especially with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. There is no contesting that. Dimitri, you cannot say Mike Evans is better than Tyreek Hill, because he's not. Unless you're playing Superstar KO, then I'll argue that.
I am going to leave it alone for now, because we have more crap to get to, but
Yeah.
Wait.
5, it was very difficult for me, because I did not know. I was honestly going to put Christian McCaffrey here.
You're not allowed.
I was tempted to. So instead I went Chris Godwin, because in my eyes, if Brady's going to be on this team, Mike Evans is going to be on deep routes 90% of the time. So Chris Godwin's going to have a bigger chance of being underneath. And Mike Evans is going to be double covered a lot more than Chris Godwin is. So Chris Godwin's going to get a lot more receptions and a lot more yards, and he's going to be one of the better wide receivers. And that's my spiel.
All right.
Honestly, I can't criticize this list that much. I'd say it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
Go on to
Let's
the next
move on for
one.
now.
Yeah, let's move on to Parker's.
Okay. Before I read number 5,
Cooper Cup?
before I read number 5, this is assuming Jared Goff does well, which is a very bold
my God.
assumption.
That is a very
Should not be thought of in a top 5. He's easily a sleeper wide receiver.
Let him get to his reason.
Yeah,
and we'll make fun of him
Exactly.
again.
Okay, first, I put Michael Thomas at number 1 because he is the star receiver on the New Orleans Saints. No one else to throw it to except for Kamara, obviously. But, like, you're not going to throw it to Kamara exclusively.
Kamara.
Okay, you know what? It's interpretive.
Listen,
All right, let him finish.
Parker.
Okay, so I put Michael Thomas as number 1 because he's a huge talent on the Saints, and I just think he's going to go uncontested, basically. Even though they're going to, like, double cover him, I think he's going to still come down with the ball and get, like, a ton of touchdowns because that's what he always does. Okay, and then Julio Jones at number 2. So, yeah, he's just insane. The only reason I didn't put him at number 1 is because his QB's not Drew Brees. It's
And he's
Julio.
old.
It's Matt Ryan. Yeah, and he's old. And yeah, and then number 3 I put DeAndre
Telling me
Hopkins.
Randy Moss wouldn't be as good as he was if he was older?
Yes.
Yes,
Let him finish.
Age is a big factor.
for receivers.
Yeah. Not as much for QBs that don't like to run.
Tom Brady.
Shut up.
Sorry. Continue.
Okay. So I put
Let him
DeAndre
finish.
Hopkins at number 3. I think he's just as talented as a receiver as the first two. It's just I don't see him doing much on the Cardinals because I just don't see the QB, whatever his name is, doing anything.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I don't see Kyler Murray doing much. I don't know why. I've never really been a big fan of Kyler Murray.
You have little faith.
Well, it's hard for Kyler Murray to get the ball over his offensive lineman in the first place.
That's
so.
a very
Because he's
valid
so
point.
freaking short.
But I mean, with
Anyway.
Deshaun
Should respect
Watson,
today's ball. Who knows?
with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins didn't do as much as they should have done with him. But, you know, I'm just not a big believer in the Cardinals. Because
Especially now that their
they're in
owner
the
has
Rams division.
Corona.
Especially against their division. they're going to get rolled by every single team in the division. Okay. And number 4, I put Tyreek Hill. Although his hands aren't really the best at all, he's just fast. He's literally just really fast. That's all he has going for him. And he has Mahomes. So he just runs by everyone.
Mahomes is putting the ball in his hands for him.
Exactly. He just runs by everyone. Mahomes just launches it and boom, touchdown. Okay.
And they want to Super
The
Bowl.
thing we've been waiting for.
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Okay. So I put him here, even though he was injured like the beginning of last season. But when he got healthy, he started doing really, I was going to say uninjured, but when he got healthy, he started doing really well in every single game. He did consistently better than most of the other wide receivers in fantasy. But he does, well, they also lost Brandon Cooks, which was one of the 3 wide receivers. So I just feel like he's going to be doing a lot more now that they don't have every other option on the team for Jared Goff to throw it to, if Jared Goff can manage to throw it to him. That's a very big if, because the odds are he's going to throw a pick before he throws it to Cooper Kupp.
So first of all, even though that you're right that they don't have Cooks anymore, they do still have Robert Woods who's going to split the ball time with them.
That's true.
And second of all,
But
Cooper Kupp is not that consistent.
Cooper
Yeah,
Kupp
he
was
was
pretty
decent.
consistent.
But I mean, there's a crap ton of people who are more than decent in the NFL. He's definitely he is consistent. He does what he's supposed to do, but he's not. You don't look at him and go like, man, that's a top 5 receiver.
Splitting the ball between 3 people, he still did better than most of the wide receivers in the league. And now that they lost one of the other wide receivers and they lost Gurley, they're going to be throwing it to him a lot more.
That's before Jared Goff was like trash.
You know, if Jared Goff manages to hit him before he hits the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't argue that Cooper Kupp's going to do well this year, but you can't argue that there's going to be loads of wide receivers that are better than him.
Yeah, for sure.
I just wouldn't put any of the Bucs receivers above him because I think Brady's too old.
Okay, but there are other wide receivers than the Bucs.
Yeah, like what about Juju? Or
I'm sorry, no.
I very much dislike the Steelers. Alrighty, I think they're pretentious. I think they're obnoxious.
Alright, let's talk about Juju. We can move on to the next slide.
Well, personally,
I have a whole.
I just don't think Juju's going to do
spiel
much.
on his number 1. Can I make an argument on his number 1 real
Sure,
quick?
argue.
Alright,
Yes.
make it brief. Make it brief.
It will be. The argument is for Michael Thomas was that Drew Brees does not have a lot to throw to, so might as well just put Devontae Adams at 1 because who else is Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to?
Michael
Oh,
Thomas is a crap ton better than Devontae Adams. Let's not pretend.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying your argument is that Michael Thomas is the only weapon.
And he's
There are others.
insane as well.
Yeah, but is that insanity good enough to make him number 1 over someone like Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins?
Julio Jones is the only weapon on the Falcons, but he's old and so is Matt Ryan. So yes, I do believe
They
so.
also have Calvin Ridley. You're saying Calvin Ridley's not good?
Guys, we're just going back
Still.
over what we've been arguing about. Let's move on to our
Sleeper picks?
sleepers.
Here you go.
Alright, I'll go first.
Trash.
I have Juju
Just cough.
Smith-Schuster. I know some Patriots fans may be a little bit unhappy, or I don't even know who the Steelers are rivals with, but
Ravens.
I mean, Ravens. Okay, but anyways, Juju Smith-Schuster, undoubtedly wide receiver number 1 on Steelers, and now that he's healthy, and now that he also has a healthy quarterback, I only see upward progression from him at his current ADP around number 40, which is just to break the end of 3rd round, early 4th round. I see him as definitely top 10 fantasy wide receiver, PPR, and could be top 7, top 6 as well. So yeah.
I agree. And before you say it's because I'm a Steelers fan, if you look at Big Ben when he had Hines Ward or he had Antonio Brown, He goes to his number one receiver 90% of the time. So if you can come down with the ball 60% of the time, which he's shown he can, then they're going to be fine. And he's going to get a lot of receptions and he's going to get a lot of yards because their only other weapons are Deontay Johnson or if James Conner decides to stay healthy.
And James Washington. But
So two quick
James Washington didn't do a lot
Let me
last
argue.
year. So say that.
Alright.
No, listen. I agree with most of that. It's not like the Steelers have many other offensive options, and you're right. Big Ben has a tendency to throw to his number one receiver, but you are not allowed to compare him to Hines Ward. You can't do it.
Or
It's not
Antonio
fair.
Brown in
I
his
wasn't-
prime.
Hold on, I never compared him to either of them. I just made a point that Big Ben will throw to his number one receiver before he throws to
No, I
him.
get it. I'm just saying I
Even
was
if he
definitely
does that, I don't think Juju's good enough to catch it over 3 people or 2.
Well,
Bro.
he's done it before. He's done it multiple times. So
Still,
only reason he didn't do as well last year is because Devlin Hodges was too busy throwing it underneath, and Mason Rudolph was too busy getting killed. So
valid argument. But why do you think Ben Roethlisberger is actually going to be healthy? He's really old now, and he's very injury prone as well.
okay, so why is Tom Brady healthier than everybody else? Because of their offensive line. Their offensive line is still great. You cannot say the Steelers' offensive line is not going to give him time.
But even if he's not healthy, it's not like Mason Rudolph has that many other people to throw it to. Like,
The ground?
But Mason Rudolph is just bad in general. He kind of just chucks it in the direction.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph should not be the Steelers' backup
He's
wide
like the
receiver.
backup QB. Like, bro, come on, dude.
To be completely honest, I hope we get a good enough draft pick so we can get someone like Trey Lance. I really want to see Trey Lance on the Steelers, to be completely honest.
You'd probably
That's what
have
I
to
wanted.
tank for him. I bet he's going first round.
How many quarterbacks really need a quarterback? Like, how
Rams.
How
many
many teams really need a quarterback?
Yeah, Rams.
Rams aren't going to go for a quarterback because they still have Jared Goff.
Yeah, because
Jack-
they wasted their money.
Patriots need a quarterback.
Vikings.
Patriots trust Jared Stidham.
Carolina Panthers. Like a lot of people.
Redskins.
Anyways, let's move
Let's
on.
move on to the next sleeper pick.
Next sleeper pick.
We have Dimitri.
No.
Yes.
No.
Now, listen up, because I'm pretty sure this is the best sleeper pick ever seen. Here's why. Texans, whether you like Bill O'Brien and you think he's a hack or not, have one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Easy. All right? Now, before, there's a reason. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is an awesome receiver, but a receiver is only as good as its quarterback. Now, the Texans have very, very few receivers right now. They have Will Fuller, they have Brandon Cooks, and they have, what's his name from the Cowboys?
Kiki Cootie.
Cobb, yeah, that's the one. Randall
They
Cobb.
also have some guy from the Dolphins, right? Kiki
Yeah,
Cootie.
No, let's not joke about that. Those are the only three
Whoa.
serious contenders here for the ball. Now, Will Fuller has been with the Texans for a crap ton of time, and he's before DeAndre Hopkins was, and he's never been good. He's always been he's been good, but he's never been great. He's always been there as a backup when the main guy is being triple guarded. I don't think he's going to step out of the limelight enough to actually be considered their wide receiver number one. Now, Randall Cobb was surprisingly decent last year. I thought he'd just screw up more, but he was surprisingly decent. But
What games were you watching? Because every time I saw Randall Cobb, I saw a drop. Every game I watched.
But compared to how bad you think he'd be, he was doing better. Yes, I'm not going to. There's a reason he was traded. He's not anything compared to the greats of the Cowboys, but he's not bad. But what my point being is that Brandon Cooks, when assuming he doesn't get injured, which is probably a big assumption because he got injured all the freaking time, I definitely think that he has a. He could. I mean, right now his ADP is around 79. That's end of 5th round. That's I think he's easily a third round, even third round, fourth round pick. But yeah. So that's
I agree with this only because I believe in week 2, Bill O'Brien will trade him for a bag of chips, and then he'll be on a better team.
That's
He must be really hungry.
Yeah, I definitely feel comfortable with Brandon Cooks as like a wide receiver 2 or flex.
yeah.
So I guess he's a steal.
Yeah.
I guess.
Alrighty.
Last
Who's
one.
next?
No, there's 2 more.
Oh God, Cooper Kupp again.
Oh man.
Cooper Kupp!
The difference here is that I said Cooper Kupp was a sleeper because he is nowhere close to the best wide receiver possible. So he's supposed to go. He's supposedly going to be in the 3rd round, which I guess I could see that. I think he's going to drop a little bit more. But my argument is that he's normally going to go underneath, so he's going to get a lot of reception. Robert Woods is going to be the new number 1 wide receiver because he showed promise last year when Brandon Cooks was hurt. And there's no more Todd Gurley, so you can't just run the ball. You have to throw the ball.
Sadly.
And if Jared Goff can't get the ball to him because he's too busy throwing it into the back of his lineman's head or throwing it into cornerback's hand.
Short chokes, man. They're not all that short.
Well, no, his arm slot is quite low.
He's just bad.
His arm,
he's bad.
he practically throws the ball sidearm, and he's too busy trying to be Jameis Winston. He's trying to be the best defensive player possible by throwing an interception.
Yeah,
All right, but wait. Before we get off track, here's my problem with you with Cooper Kupp as your sleeper. I think he's decent. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's great. I think he's very well placed right now. If you are going to tell, basically you're saying that he has the potential to be a 2nd round pick, right? Or even a 1st round pick in some cases. But what you're saying is that on some of the worst teams in the fantasy draft, that he could be a potential wide receiver 1, which I think is a ridiculous thought.
I don't think he can be a wide receiver 1 because there's a lot of better wide receivers, especially fantasy wise. I think he's going to have the opportunity. He's going to be that guy that either goes a little bit later. I think his ADP is honestly way too high.
So where do you think his ADP is going to end up?
Well, number-wise, I'm not sure. I believe he's going to go in like the 6th or 7th round.
Oh, so that's
Well, yeah, if he's in the 6th and 7th round, that's a sleeper. But at currently, like 3rd, 4th round, that's not really a sleeper.
Yeah.
Like until he moves back, then right now he's not considered, I guess.
My argument was that he's being rated way too high for what he is. Because yeah, he did somewhat well when he was healthy. But you have guys that are better than him. You're gonna have in like the 3rd round people looking to get a good quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. So he's not gonna go that high.
So he's not a sleeper. He's the opposite of a sleeper. He's like
Overrated.
An early waker. All right.
I guess you could put it that way. But it was either me picking Cooper Kupp or me going with someone like I wanted to go DK Metcalf.
I was thinking between DK Metcalf and the Titans receiver as well.
I was thinking DK Metcalf because he's Russell Wilson's really only weapon except for his running backs at this point.
Well, I mean, there's a Tyler Lockett, right? And then you also have Philip Dorsett, right? Yeah. And you're also probably getting Josh Gordon, so...
Okay, Gordon, I'm pretty sure Josh Gordon's still in the Titans.
No, he's undrafted. He's a free agent.
Oh, well,
Josh Gordon is a free agent.
I want him back. I want Josh Gordon back in my life.
I wonder why.
Hey, go tell Bill Belichick to trade for Brandon Cooks again, okay? Because you're gonna get him for a bag of chips. A bag of chips.
Belichick's gonna offer like a literal 5th round draft pick, and Bill O'Brien's gonna be like, yes. Or maybe the jar of ashes Randy Moss's body is in. All right, we'll get that.
Oh no!
O'Brien is going to feel so bad because he's going to think it's such a bad trade. He's going to throw in Deshaun Watson. Oh, right?
Just to show his contempt.
He's been playing fantasy, and he just said, "Oh my God, what the Patriots aren't going to be doing well. I can't bet on the Patriots anymore. Let me send them one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Let me send him a gift or two.
Like, we'll give them Tom Brady wanted a weapon. We'll give them one of their weapons, and then we're good."
He probably bet on the Cardinals before he traded them DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes. He's running.
It's the only plausible way.
He wore a trench coat and a mask and said, "I bet you the Texans won't trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals." He's like, "I'll take that bet." Next day, Texans trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals for practically garbage.
For an 80-year-old running back.
He's not that old.
A fourth-round pick.
Yeah.
He's overrated, and he never had
And he's
that.
old.
Dude, he's not that old. David Johnson's not that old.
I think we're getting a little sidetracked.
Alrighty,
Okay,
guys. Before let's
move on.
stop insulting Bill O'Brien. We keep coming back to this. Let's move on to the next sleeper
just
pick.
insult my sleeper pick.
Our final
And this
sleeper pick.
one, I think this one's gonna be the funniest of them all.
Okay,
Alright, Parker,
not
explain
because my
yourself.
name's Parker, but I picked Devontae Parker because I feel like with Tua, he's going to be doing so much better than with Fitzmagic. And he started popping off in the end of the season. So I see him as a contender for my number 1 wide receiver spot.
By the way,
Alright,
poorly
can I go
did.
for-
I'm still
Alright.
pissed that Tua didn't go to the Chargers. I still can't have
Ho's
trouble
mad.
sleeping at night because of that.
Let me go. All right.
Alright.
The way I see Devontae Parker, he's a boomer bust candidate. His last year, and also going back, Fitzmagic, I think it'd be a better comparison to compare him to Jameis Winston than comparing Jameis Winston to Patrick Mahomes. So that's a whole different story. The only reason why Devontae Parker was able to, put up reasonable points last year because Fitzmagic was like Jameis Winston. He was making those risky throws, chucking it downfield, doing all this wild and crazy stuff. And now you have Tua. I don't know.
Yeah,
how to
try and
pronounce
say his last name.
Tua.
Tagovailoa or whatever?
I mean, he's
Tagovailoa.
obviously not the same quarterback as Fitzmagic. He's not going to just be chucking it randomly downfield. I think he'll be a lot more reserved. They also have a Mike Gesicki, I think, a great tight end. So honestly, I personally see a little bit of regression, but that's just my opinion.
So I slightly disagree with Steven there, if you don't mind me jumping in here. Well, I don't think that this is a great sleeper pick because I think that it's relatively well placed for mid-5th round pick. But I also think that Tua will do well with him. I think that he's a little less consistent than Fitzmagic was, but I do think that they're going to do some cool things together. But I definitely don't think the ADP is misplaced. I think that I wouldn't put him as wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I might put him at flex, but I think it's relatively accurate.
Justin?
Yeah, I like some of the stuff you said, like how Tua's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's not going to just chuck the ball downfield and it's going to go over Devontae Parker's head or something, because Tua Tagovailoa is going to chuck the ball
got it.
downfield.
Wait, actually, whoa.
He's going to chuck the ball downfield and into Devontae Parker's hands so he can make the catch and he can do something with the ball. As long as Tua can stay healthy, they'll be completely fine. But then look at that offensive line and you're like, oh shit.
I have no offensive line.
What is this? My question is, why do 90% of NFL teams don't have good offensive lines?
They're
You
rare.
have
Offensive linemen are rare to come by.
Are they,
Plain and
just
simple
look-
as that.
Look at the offensive linemen that they picked up this year. There was a decent amount of linemen. They just don't groom them as much as they groom a wide receiver or a quarterback or a running back.
That's always confused me, because as somebody who personally has subpar lineman himself, it's not that hard. Like I get why it might be difficult, but they really just need to get a bunch of big fat people and just stand still. Like
There's too many good defensive ends and defensive linemen.
That doesn't work against Aaron
listen,
Donald,
if
my
you
guy.
lose to J.J. Watt I can respect that.
That does not work
Jadeveon
against
Clowney, I respect that.
Aaron Donald.
I can respect that. But if you lose, but beyond some stars, beyond some stars, there's no excuse. Like, it honestly, the amount of college linemen that have to come out is ridiculous. I don't see why they don't draft more of them or grab more free agents from college. It doesn't make sense.
The only time an offensive lineman should have trouble is if, so like, say the Steelers say, screw this, let's have a full-out blitz, send TJ Watt, send Bud Dupree, your defensive lineman, then they're going to have a... You're not telling me, hold on, you're going to say TJ Watt is not one of the best linebackers in the NFL right now.
No, I'm just saying, we're talking about Devontae Parker. Kind of went...
So we're talking about that.
We went on the tangent. So let's just end with linemen in the NFL are unexcusably sucky, and they need to fix that. So, Parker, explain to us why Devontae Parker... Like, what's your excuse?
He already explained, right?
No, he explained it, but I'm still not getting it. The way I see it, he might be a good fit for the Dolphins. Do you think the Dolphins are going to do particularly well next year?
Personally, I see them doing well. Did you see how they played in the end of the season? They beat the Patriots with Tom Brady.
Shut up.
They beat the Patriots.
Don't mention that here.
The Patriots can't even win a playoff game against the Tennessee Titans. They don't know how to stop Derrick Henry. They're too busy throwing pick six as the last play of the game.
Yeah, Dimitri.
Alrighty. I think that's a great note. Do we have another slide? Do we have another thing, or is that the end of it?
Yeah, just the ending slide. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Kind of heated today, a little bit sidetracked. Hopefully next time we'll have some more guys to chip in. Yes. As always, be sure to comment. We love your feedback, and thanks for joining us again. Peace out.
See ya.
Alrighty. Adios.